Well, there it is.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Richard Witty here.
It's your boy, WTiiWarcraft. How's it going? Thank you very much for watching this video. This is a video created for you guys. It is a tier list for Warcraft Reforged Night Elf units. I created all of these images with which you can use to determine which character should be S tier, A, B, C, or D. So we're going to go through all of these and put them in their respective categories. The link to this will be in the video description if you wish to take a look at that and have a gander. I will be taking into the criteria the unit model, the icon to represent the unit model, the portrait to represent the unit model. So those three things are what I'm going to be looking at. And I'm going to take a look at each of them and mark them to a certain degree, combine those marks, and then give them a tier. So let's start off with the Wisp so we can show this off. By the way, subscribe, thumbs up if you want more of this kind of content. It was not easy to create. It took a while. So if you want stuff like this, you got to show some support. So please do thumbs up again and share this video. If you want to give this a go as well, you'll just follow the link, and I'll try to include all of these images, although I've tried to make it so it shows each one quite clearly in the page, the web page, but if I can, I'll try to upload the images themselves, the JPEGs. So starting off with a Wisp. Let's take a look. The in-game model, I think, is like a 6 to 7 out of 10, because whilst it's got this cool wispy look to it, I don't really see where the wisp is. It just almost looks like a dissipated spell effect, albeit this is a screenshot. It is a screenshot of each unit as I try to get them as clear as possible, and this doesn't look very much like a wisp. It just looks like some random spell, like even a projectile that a character has thrown across the screen. The icon, most of these are going to be like 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Like they're really good, but the way I can criticize them is how they represent. Oh yeah, this disclaimer again. Everything is work in progress. I'm well aware of that. Nothing is completely finished. I am just criticizing this as I see it, but I'm also taking into account that there is potential for the character. For example, there's potential for this portrait to be having some extra sort of spell effects wrapping around its face, because right now it's just a floating head that not many people are too keen on. It doesn't actually bother me that much, but obviously this is going to get a fairly low score because it's just basically a banshee head right now by the looks of it. And this is like 6 out of 10. That's like 9 to 10 out of 10, because that really shows you that there's this sort of like ethereal, ghostly vibe to this character. And this is not quite as good as that. So for me, we're going to start off with a C tier for the Wisp. Some of these will make it into S. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to slag all these off, but I will try to be critical, because criticism is a great way to basically create feedback for the developers, and then they can take that into account. They can say, screw you, I don't care. Or they can say, yeah, you know what, you got a point there. If you just say, everything's perfect, you're not going to get very far, are you? Archer, here we go. So, whilst the model itself is pretty cool, I feel like there's a bit too much going on here, like these green leaves coming off here. It's a nice touch, but everything is too busy. There's too much traffic going on with the models. Like, what's this massive draping sort of loincloth going on here? Just wear the loincloth. Take everything else off. Someone said in one of my videos, if Witty had it his way, everyone would be wearing a loincloth. And that is true, because then I could identify the models more clearly. The leggings are a little bit over the top, but I like the sort of like the wrist plates and even the like the knee plates. Those are quite good. The bow itself is pretty damn awesome. Might need a bit more outlining so you can identify the bow more within like the surroundings. Her face, her ears, looks great. The posture's awful though. She's like supposed to be crouching, but to me it just looks like she's an old lady that's been carrying luggage for too long. This icon, whilst it looks quite awesome, doesn't tell me that it's an archer unit. So at best I can give this like 5 out of 10. It's not a bad icon by any marks. It just doesn't tell me what the unit is. This portrait does a better job because you can see the bow in the background, or the arrows. So overall, I think this still makes it into the C tier, but much closer towards the B tier. So, Archer, off you pop. Next, we're taking a look at the Huntress. So, this is looking pretty feisty. I tried to get a good glimpse of all the weaponry as best as I could whilst just getting one screen, because otherwise the picture is going to be too small if I try to include all of the angles. So we got to again zoom in on the face, but at least there's armor. This is a little bit better than the Archer, but doesn't still tell you that this is actually a Huntress unit. Albeit, I know they want to zoom in more on the face. Like, a lot of these icons are very close up, and I guess that's for readability. I can't slag it off too much because I am aware that there aren't that many units that actually look like the Archer, so you would still know it was the Archer, or you would still know this is the Huntress, despite it basically just being a face, not showing any weaponry or anything like that. I'm aware. But I'm still going to criticize. The portrait is a bit better. I get to see a little bit of the shoulder pads. Seems like the angle's a bit out. Just out enough, I would say. She has the striking green hair as well, which is different to the Archer's midnight blue hair. The character model is actually pretty good. There's not much going on there. The weapon's a little bit small, actually. I feel like the original version was a bit larger. But this is one of the few models where I actually don't complain too much about the mount having quite a lot of armor. Because I don't think it detracts in this case versus the Huntress, since the animal is quite a large part of the Huntress. Whereas a model like Thrall or something doesn't need his wolf to like be kitted out 10 times more than he is. So this can definitely make it into the B tier, I reckon. I'm not like super comfortable putting it in there. I feel like it could sway either way, potentially more towards C tier, but he gets the B tier. Dryad. Okay, so absolutely awesome icon here. There's a lot going on. The earrings, the curling around here. There's sort of like the symbol, like the little dots here and there, like the green leaf on the top. The portrait, again, shows this off a little bit, the horn. So the portrait's not quite as good, but it does enough of a job. And the in-game model, I think, is pretty good, but it's a little bit large at the moment. It could be reduced in size, and I feel like maybe this green hair could show off even more red. Maybe a red stripe around the straight hand side of it, because otherwise, if you didn't see this red part here, there's not that much to identify this character as a red unit. They have got better though overall. Like, I'm not going to say they're not putting effort in for that, because they are. You can clearly see there's like red here, red here. I'm aware of that. I can see. I have got glasses on, so I can see even better now. But it doesn't strike out that much. Perhaps a red stripe against her back, but that maybe goes against the realism aspect a bit too much. But Dryad, definitely a fan of this one. I mean, this is really good. That's not too bad. For me, it's really between B and A tier, but I don't feel like I could be generous enough to put her in A. Do you know what I mean? I might have to stick her in the B, because she's not quite perfect. Glaive thrower. Now, this model is incredible, actually. I don't think this screenshot does this as much justice. If you've actually seen this in-game, the way it moves, the way it attacks, when it throws off that giant glaive, it kind of like wobbles a little bit and everything. The reloading process. It looks pretty insane. This icon's good. This portrait, whilst it looks menacing and pretty fierce, I'm not sure it really represents what the glaive thrower is. It almost looks like a siege engine, so it loses a lot of points because of that. If it was more from the top point showing the glaive, I think it would be better representative of what it actually is. But the model itself is freaking great. So this actually stays at B tier, because that's really bad, that part. But the rest, I mean, it's close to A tier. It really is. I might be swayed. Like, we got Twitch chat here. I don't know whether to include it or not. I don't know if I can. I can chuck it somewhere. Let's see if it actually even works. Sometimes it doesn't actually even work. Oh, there we go. I'll chuck you over here, Twitch chat. So, we got A tier, I think. I'm being persuaded. I was going to go B or A. I wanted to like mark it down into B, but really it does belong in A. We've got to go A. So, next one, we have the Druid of the Talon. Right. Icon. This is one of those cases where you can get away with it just being a picture of the face, basically. Because there's enough symbolization here to represent that this is obviously a spellcaster. There's something sort of powerful going on here. He's got the hood. Like, he looks like he needs to look. I don't think we need much more going on here. The portrait itself is pretty good as well, actually. Like, I like the sort of menacing look of him. I don't really like how Reforged is too realistic. I think I've made my opinions clear on that. I totally support the classic games team and what they're doing, and I'm happy for them to go ahead with what they're doing. I've always made it obvious that I prefer the older original graphics, or at least a more enhanced version of that. However, that's not the direction they wish to go. I'm understanding of that, and it's too late to change things now, so it's fine. We've just got to move on and try to support as best as we can. And this is pretty good. We don't need, like, so many lines, though. And, like, all the characters, like, the trolls are, like, really hard to look at because they got, like, 6,000 lines across each wrinkle. It's like, how is that even possible? But, yeah, no, this is one of the cases where the portrait actually looks really good. The character itself, I like the bark, but I don't because... Again, we're getting a bit too armoured with our characters. And Night Elves are one of the units that should have the least amount of armour because they're all about agility and being more natural. The shoulder pads are lovely. The hair is great. The hood is awesome. The staff is pretty clear, albeit a little bit sort of beigey brown, so it kind of washes out. But then again, that's stuff that can maybe be fixed to make it pop a little bit more. But if you're actually able to identify it, yes, that is a Raven. The colouring is good. You can pretty much definitely tell that's a red player unit. I think the brown bark could be removed a little bit. Remove these, like maybe give him the brown gloves, but not the wrist plates. And the feet could be a little bit less armoured as well. Maybe the shins, take away the shin armour, but keep him like the modest feet. He's definitely, like, A tier. Like, he looks like a Druid of the Talon. He's one of the ones where they actually managed to represent the Druid of the Talon pretty well. Albeit, when he's on the battlefield with hundreds of them, I can't tell you, because I haven't really played Druid of the Talon and Reforged much. Oh, we have Druid of the Talon Crow form. The picture went a little bit funny here, but that's fine. You get the idea. So, this is one I actually don't like much, because it just looks like a black blur. This is an easy D tier for me. Easy. Like, this is what it's supposed to represent. That's fine. The original one looks really good because it's bigger, it's bulkier, it stands out more. There's just more identifiability, more readability with the original model. This just looks like a generic bird that would be flying around in the background, as you've seen on some of the maps. So I've got to mark this down. Sorry, you might disagree, but for me that's a D tier. Pretty easy D tier for me on that one. So that's why I separated the forms, because there's a big difference between the actual caster form versus its actual... Yeah, it should be way more purple and stuff like that. Druid of the Claw is actually pretty different, but at the same time really similar to the original. It holds the power of the original, the beefiness of the original, but the posture and pose is completely different. However, it doesn't detract from what the Druid of the Claw represents. It is incredible, this model. And his attack animations are insanely good as well. Like, those claws make it really obvious that this is like a bear. Like, he's got all the fur coming off him, the face, the massive, just lovely flowing hair. He's got the bear symbol here, but he's still showing skin to show like he's raggedy and can transform very quickly. The portrait is pretty obvious. That's the caster form, like the furriness. It could show a little bit more fur around the shoulder pads. Like, you kind of got it here, but the shoulder pads are actually kind of like yellowy cloth, so they detract from the actual fur. This is pretty awesome. It looks a little bit similar to the Druid of the Talon, though, because of that kind of teal look. It looks like just a thicker version of it. As much as I could knock those two, this down in points to A because of these not being up to snuff, I think this is definitely an S tier. Like, how you say D tier? Groyville, wow. Okay, well this is why I've included this in the video description, so you can do this yourself and then you can link it or show me, write in the comments which characters you think are S tier or A, B, C, D. Like, who do you agree with me when I say Druid of the Claw is S tier? Perhaps you don't. Just let me know. So, bear form. I love this, but I know that everyone has a problem with it. But for me, it's easy S tier from Lord Lupus. It's so cute. And that, for me, really gets to my bias, because I love like the original Warcraft 3 models, because they've got a lot of cuteness. Even the abominations look pretty cute. I can't really put this in S tier, because it obviously doesn't belong to... Well, it doesn't deserve to belong in S tier, but I mean, look at the face. It's so cute. But I've got to look at it objectively as well, even though I did say a lot of this is subjective. This doesn't represent enough power. The original models have massive arms. Like, they attack like that, and they just absolutely... They get your eyes. You know what I mean? Like, when you're looking, you see those arms smacking down on their enemy, so you know they have a powerful attack. When these attack, they don't look as powerful. Yeah, it's still strong because it's like a bear. You can see it's like bulky forearms and biceps, but it's not as... It's hard to describe. It's not as like thick as the original ones. It's got a lot more hair though, which is kind of cool, but that almost makes the rest of it look kind of skinny. So this, for me, I think because of my bias, I shouldn't really put this in B tier, but I do like it, and I don't want them to change it too much. They just need to make it bigger, bulkier in the arms, because that's the part that attacks. I think I'm going to be fair and put this in C tier, because I know that it is a big point of contention, so I do also have bias from outside sources. But I really like it, personally. But I like it because it's cute and funny, not because it actually represents the model as it should do. Mountain Giant. Ugh, this is, like, insanely good. It doesn't look quite as derpy as the original, but they did say they're going for a realism look, and that is a pretty realistic looking bundle of rocks created into, you know, a humanoid form. It's insane. Like, you could see the sheer weight, the bulk of it, but it's like he's got this kind of, just this, like he's dragging so much weight, but it looks good at the same time. It is an incredible looking model. And the portrait and the icon is just insane. I cannot knock this. It has to go S tier. Like, it has to. Hippogriff. Right. Okay, so they went with a very colourful change for hippogriffs. I don't mind it that much. I think it looks quite pretty, and hippogriffs are quite colourful in World of Warcraft, and that might be why they've gone for it. A lot of people criticise it for being a parrot. I don't like the horns. I think the horns are well over the top. The original ones only have like little stubs, I think. Or no, maybe they do have antler horns, but they're not like as over the top as this. I think colouring could really affect it on the playfield as to who it belongs to. When the in-game model is flying, it feels like it's falling all the time whilst it's staying afloat. It doesn't seem to be as straight and upright as the original. It's like a sort of an angle where like its butt weighs a ton. It is constantly trying to pull it down, so it doesn't stand out to me as much in the air as the original models do. The original models are like straighter, so they're easier to identify. The portrait's pretty good. I mean, it looks like a freaking weird parrot bird, but it does represent what it looks like there. But the horns are too much. Like, there's not many characters that look like that, so you can't really sort of say, oh, I mistook this for a storm crow, you know, or Druid of the Talon in crow form. That's never going to happen. Yeah, the icon is too weird. I mean, you got the beak in there, so that's good points, but everything else is... The weird colouring, I think, is C tier. I think people would probably want to put this in D tier, to be honest, but I still think it looks like a hippogriff. It's just they've gone with a completely different look. It is a C tier, but real close to D. Now we got the Hippogriff Rider. So, the portrait, that looks a little bit off. Could have been a strange angle that I took it at, I don't know. But it does represent the rider on the back, but you also get the essence of it riding the hippogriff, hence Hippogriff Rider, so portrait is fine. Icon is fine because it represents what it's supposed to be. Although I don't know about the whole teal colouring here. Like what they were going for there, but it looks like what it's supposed to look like. Even the model itself is better. It's more upright, which I guess maybe is why they went and made the original one droop more, so it kind of differentiates it from the Hippogriff Rider. But I never had a problem identifying Hippogriff Riders in Classic versus Hippogriffs. I think the Archer is more visible in this screenshot, but I've played the game and I've seen it, and a lot of the time you can sometimes barely see her. This is because it's really stretched and sort of... It's not stretched, it's like... It's still 1920 just pulled out or whatever. It's zoomed in more. Like, the aspect ratio is correct here. The screenshot does it better justice than I think the game does inside of it. We can... I can't put that in a B, though. I don't think I can put that in B. Because I know how it plays in the game and it doesn't do it justice. I think I am going to put the Hippogriff in D tier, actually. I've changed my mind on that. Because the Hippogriff Rider is better than the Hippogriff. But I think that's... Yeah. I think that's changed my mind. That I did say that was going on to D tier. Moving on to Fairy Dragon. It's kind of... It's not as cute as the original, though, is it? It looks a bit more monstrous. It's got a funny little pot belly. The colouring and design on the wings is exquisite, though. Like, this is an in-game model. And that looks incredible. This is pretty cute, though. But that could have just been the screenshot time that I took. The icon, like, that's a fairy dragon. It's got big, bright... pink eyes. You got to bear in mind that a lot of these icons are very zoomed in on the faces. You're not going to get many icons that show the character's armor or the wingspan and stuff like that. And that's... I'm taking that into account as well. You've even got like this purplish wing. I think you can even see a bit of the wing there. It's like that purple part coming off over here. Fairy Dragon is like a B tier. It could be A, even S, if the body of it and the face looked a bit cuter. And more like the original. I know this is how they kind of want them to look, though. Because, yeah, the Heroes of the Storm is a bit similar. I didn't like the Heroes of the Storm version of the Fairy Dragon, to be honest. I think he gets B. Chimera. This model looks pretty insane. But my one downside is... it's too skinny. But at the same time, it's really lanky. Like... lengthwise, it's really long. And widthwise, when those wings stretch out, it's really long. The original Chimera was way bulkier. Oh, this is doing me throat in. Way bulkier. This is a pretty cool picture, though. It shows the two heads. A lot of menace and power. So that's a really good poise. The facial structure, everything about that. You look at that and you don't think that's a pushover. You know that's a powerful unit. Like, it just almost looks arrogant. And it looks pretty good here in the portrait. You see the two heads, sort of like the sheer power that it could potentially push out. You guys are saying A. I'm honestly going to put this into B. Because the proportions are wrong. For me, personally, I feel like it's too lanky and long, like the necks and everything are just too long. The original was stubbier, but it was better on the battlefield. For me, in the game, this model looks really big way bigger than it should be. Yes, Chimera's a big unit, but it doesn't quite do it for me. Point of contention, Demon Hunter female. So, here we have a very, very plain looking portrait, very plain looking icon, essentially a very plain looking character, which is mimicking the original Demon Hunter with the same ponytail. The strikings are quite cool. I like the bandages around. Like, the weapon looks good, but it's probably a C because everything else is quite bland. I quite like it in the original Warcraft 3, but I guess I'm just biased in that sense. If you haven't seen the original Warcraft 3 version of it, go check out one of my YouTube channels, one of my YouTube videos, Warcraft 3 Reforged Night Elf comparison side-by-side video. It shows the original model, or the new version anyway, because it never existed in the first place. We've got metamorphosis. That's not finished. This looks really cool though. That gets a lot of points. That looks really cool. I'm not so sure about the hands looking like they've almost completely gone demonic. Like, I feel like they should still retain like that human quality, because they should really be in charge. Although she is turning into a demon, so that's kind of the point. It's better, I think. Although it loses points because of that portrait. It's either C or it's B. I don't think it deserves a B, though. I think it's C. S for the memes. Yeah, I think it's got to be knocked down into C. I think it's close to B, but not quite. All right. Enough said. It's Illidan. What? What? Gay for Illidan. Gay for Illidan. Demon Hunter male. He is missing the panda blades, which obviously some of us aren't too happy, but those do look kind of cool. I would personally prefer a version... Oh, come on. What? Look at him, though. Look how beefy he is. Like, just the sheer power he exudes is incredible. Icon's insane. I think the in-game portrait needs work. It needs work. Like, it looks like Illidan, but at the same time it doesn't. It looks like his older cousin or something, Barry. Like, there's something not quite right there. I think he needs to look a little bit more youthful. I know he's got to have like this kind of snarl, which is something you get more when you're older. And it's got like the lines. That's kind of fine. But there's something about it that just looks like he's too aged. And yes, he's 10,000 years old. Blah, blah, blah. All the Night Elves are. Taronda is, but she don't fucking look like that. Okay. So, yep. Sorry, I'm biased. I get to be biased on that one. Okay. So we got a bit of this kind of cleft mouth thing going on with the metamorphosis. But it definitely looks better than the female version. That icon's insane. This is pretty good, but it looks too much like a Dreadlord for me. It looks too much like a Dreadlord. Like, he's got almost like this kind of furry satyr hands. The posture reminds me of the old school Dreadlords like Tichondrius. The wings are really good, though. Like, they look very powerful and strong. The horns are a little bit over the top, but I can get over that. And the strike in green is awesome. So this is a really nice model in many aspects. It just maybe needs to look more like the Demon Hunter is his own character, not just basically a Dreadlord. Yeah, it goes A tier. Okay. Keeper of the Grove. Now this guy, I actually took a screenshot here that's slightly biased in his favor, but for me, I want to knock him down in points because I feel like he's too long in the game. I don't know if that's definitely true, but the original feels like he's more kind of squished in and more one model. I get it that he's a horse, but he looks too long in the new model. The identifying characteristics of like the fawny hands and, you know, the robe, the antlers, everything else is pretty good. He's pretty ripped as well. This I don't get though. He looks a bit more aged here, but he's still very young looking. it was so weird how they kind of changed things up. And, like, I never would have thought the Keeper of the Grove as a young character, but he looks like he's like 20 years old here. I don't get it. But he should look like he's 50 or 60, really. Like he's part of nature. Well, there it is. I'm going to go B tier on this one. There's aspects of it that almost make it deserve A tier. I'm aware of that, but I can't put it in A tier because of essentially incorrect decisions, I feel. Priestess of the Moon, she looks really chipper there. This is cool. I like how this actually harkens back to the original, which was more about the mount to a degree. Like, because the original model looked like garbage. Like, it's funny. Not the tiger, but the actual Priestess of the Moon's face. I don't think anyone's actually really seen it. Some people of my chat have seen it because I've shown it off, but twitch.tv/witty, where we're doing this. But this is cool because it's like more representative of the actual Priestess of the Moon. Like, yes, I know she's the one riding the tiger, but the tiger's a real big part of the actual model and character itself, really, for me personally. So I do cut off a little bit of her looks here with the text. I wanted to make the text like large, but not too large, so it's still small enough. And on this picture, it's definitely taken off a bit of the face here. Shoulder pads. She's got like that kind of like that silver dressing, which she kind of has in World of Warcraft, and that's kind of cool because that identifies her. She's got a nice pendant. The bow's got like some cool coloring on it to sort of like show off its shape a little bit. Tiger's a little heavy on the front. People have said that it should be because it goes into battle, but then again, if you're going to use that logic, then you can just use that versus so many things. It's a video game. Like, not everything has to make sense. Whilst it's kind of nice, I feel like it makes it a bit too bulky and heavy. I want to see a bigger tiger head and just have that be the armor, so to speak. This just massive tiger, not just the armor making it massive. I think this is a B tier. This is an easy B tier, maybe even A tier. I want to mark it down though quite a lot because of the armor and the tiger. I want the tiger to represent more than the armor does. Yeah, I'm going B. That's a very close to A tier. This video is going to go on quite long, so I always do this. Right, Warden. Insane. Now, be aware that this does not replace Maiev. Okay? There is Maiev in the game. And the original Warden that you are used to is in the game. It's just when you play as Night Elf, this is the model that you currently get. And it looks insane. Like, it's almost better in some ways than the original, which is saying a lot because the original is incredible. The artwork, the design, the concept for the armor itself is insane. I don't quite get this. Like, this helmet almost looks like it's a bit too squished. Like, it's almost like an alien or a robot. It's not like even a human inside of there, or a night elf in this case. But it's so cool. This is definitely an S. Definitely an S. The one main criticism, Blizzard, is make her wider. Because when I play her, I sometimes can't even spot her because she's too skinny. I've had this issue. The same with the female demon hunters, a bit too skinny, so I couldn't even find them sometimes amidst the big battle. They felt like they weren't standing out enough. So I'm going to overlook those things, but I'm definitely going to put her into S tier. Treant. Okay, for me, I can come straight out and say that this is A tier, close to B tier. The things that are knocking it down are the leaves. Yes, it's a tree. Yes, trees have leaves, but you don't need the leaves. Or at least just have, literally just have a little bit. Like, literally just that leaf, but get rid of these ones. Have that leaf, but get rid of these ones. Have a small leaf on the elbows. And a small leaf here. You don't, like, when they've done this with some of the ancient models, where they've got too much, and I'm going to get to it. The Ancient of Wind is a real big point of contention. They have too much going on. So when the model is on the field, bear in mind you can have 2, 3, or 4 of these, and on a short cooldown, so you can end up having like 12 of these pretty easily. They take up too much screen space, and they blur in and blend in and wash out. But otherwise, this is definitely a better take on the original treant, and it looks pretty similar. It needs a bit more outlining, though, so you can identify the face from the body. But otherwise, this is a happy B tier. Close to A tier. It's A or B. That's a really good look on the treant. Like, that looks like the treant to me. That looks like the treant. I think I'm going to put it in A tier. But it kind of deserves to almost go down to B tier. Like, it's close. Avatar of Vengeance. This looks insane. Like, I like the original. Like, I like the original metamorphosis. The full, you know, the black demon hunter. Like, he's just like pure black. The avatar, again, is sort of like kind of this sort of translucent black. But this is a really cool take on it. It stands out. It's pretty amazing. I don't know if I'll go so far to say S. But it's because it looks so much like the actual Warden model. That's probably why it looks so good. It is basically the Warden model. Which the avatar was. But it also looked kind of different and bigger and bulkier. But I guess it probably was like just the same, just scaled up. It's between A and S. I'm not sure if I'm totally sold on this starriness. I know the Priestess of the Moon has something like that, and that kind of works for the owl. I don't know. I think the Warden's a bit darker than this kind of glitter. I don't think this deserves glitter. I think it needs to be darker and more ominous. Like the translucent kind of original model. So it gets A tier. It can't go S tier. Can't go S tier. Right, this I think is work in progress. I don't think this is how it's supposed to look. I'd be very surprised if this is the intention. It looks spiritual. So Spirit of Vengeance, this giant teal look. But I can't think that's really intentional. I can't feel like that's definitely a finished model. But otherwise, it's the Sentry model, which is really cool. And it looks good. This looks neat. That's the icon for the Sentry. It's not necessarily the icon for the Spirit of Vengeance. I don't want to mark it down too much to D, just because it's got this, like, giant blue. But it's holding true to the representative of the original model, so it gets a point into C because of that. But yes, it does kind of deserve to be D tier because of the weird blueness, but I think that's something they would obviously fix. So, this for me is S tier. I really like this owl scout. And did you know that the owls, like many cases, that's one of the nice things we get with Reforged, is there's so many unit variations, and each variation also has different icons. So the original owl scout icon is the same, be it level 1, 2, 3. This one actually looks different from level 1, 2, and 3. It gets like a more of a crown at the level 3 stage, and level 2 it looks a bit older, so this is more like its younger phase. This looks incredible. Like, I really like this model for some reason. In game it looks even better than this screenshot, so that's S tier for me. Right, you guys aren't going to like me. Maybe he grows on me, but he's D tier for me. I don't like the Tree of Life. It doesn't look like the Tree of Life to me. It looks too washed out, blurred in. It's all one big grey bark. I don't get it. There's not enough. I know there's different forms of it. So there's like the Tree of Eternity, which is a big improvement on the Tree of Life and Tree of Ages. But there's still... It's not good enough. I use the Tree of Life as the template, and that's why I want to slag it off. I'm not happy with this. I don't get this kind of weird... Looks like he's wearing like that baby kind of crown. I know it's almost supposed to be more baby-like, because when you upgrade this thing, it gets older. Its face looks more aged, which is part of the point. Tree of Life, Tree of Ages, Tree of Eternity, you know. They're old. I get it. But I don't like it. D tier. Ancient of War. Now, the in-game model looks pretty damn amazing. I'm not, again, a huge fan of too much clutter with all of this green leafery, but it's got enough outstanding points to identify it as an Ancient of War and not as something else. And those tusks are insane. The icon's good, but it almost looks a bit teddy bear-like. Like I'm seeing a big teddy bear face. So I think the icon could actually... This is one of the cases where I'm actually not so happy with the icon. I think the icon could be better. The portrait is too messy. At least I can see the tusks, but do you see what I mean about all this green leafery? It just takes over everywhere. You don't need this much. I get it's a tree, but freaking hell. There's just too much going on. It just looks too cluttered. So it's just kind of all washing in with one another. So it's... the in-game model is really good though. So it can't be any lower than B. It's B to A. It would be A if these two were better. But these two are not better. And there's too much green going on, so it's a B. Ancient of Lore. We're almost there, guys. Right, okay, so this in-game model is S tier. However, the icon doesn't show, apart from the glowing blue eyes, which is very much like the Ancient of Lore, it doesn't really show to me enough like this does. It's missing the autumn leaves. So again, this is one case where I kind of like, you know, I sound like I'm hypocritical. This is one case where I want actual leaves on the icon to show off, because the autumnness really stands out on this model. And the portrait's pretty good. Like, he's got a kind of a cool, funny look to him. Sort of like an old, gnarly, but funny, sort of like friendly dude. But he doesn't quite, it's not quite right, is it? Like, maybe it needs a better angle or something. Unless, if they're concentrating on the face, I guess that's the best they can get out of that one. But the in-game model is insane. When this thing moves around, those lanterns swing. Like, this is very representative of the original. The only thing I would do is, again, just stop making everything too big, Blizzard. It can be big in some cases, like the Warden can be a bit thicker to stand out more. Same with the female Demon Hunter. But the original models, I've actually taken a look. The original models are actually a lot smaller. Like, Blizzard seem to have this thing, at least whoever they've shipped this out to, or the art team, it's just, there's too much fucking coming out of everything, and then when it comes out of, like, your shoulder blades, it's then got to have 6 other things coming out of the shoulder blades. It's like, you don't need that much. Like, this branch can stop here, and this lantern could be swinging from here. Like, it just, they just go too far. But it gets A tier. But the model itself is insanely good. I would just cut off this end branch and just keep it a bit smaller, because you've got to remember this is an RTS game we're playing, so you're going to have a lot of these potentially on the field or something like that. It's not S tier, it's A tier. Okay, Ancient of Wind. That's a pretty cool looking icon, but it looks like a Griffin Aviary. That portrait looks like an Aztec warrior. Did anyone ever watch Stargate? All I have to do is say Stargate. I don't even need to say anything more. And if you have seen it, you will understand that reference. The model itself, I like the hands. I like the feet. I like the head. I hate everything else. What is going on? The original model had like this kind of look, but it was so easy to read. Yeah, this is just too much of everything. I want to really hammer this down to D tier, to be honest. But I really like the head, and I like the kind of gnarly hands and feet. Like, the fundamentals are almost there. So it gets a C. It's really good in some aspects, but it's failing in others. It's close to a B, but I don't think it deserves a B. Ancient of Wonders. I really hate this thing, but I feel like that's a personal problem. I feel like it's too ugly, but it's kind of cool. Like, the way this thing moves is pretty awesome. It stands out as its own character. I like the icon here more. I don't like the portrait though, even though it is that. I prefer it with the shorter neck. I know it's a turtle and they can have that kind of stretchy neck, but I don't really like it. And the neck is supposed to sort of stretch in as he becomes rooted and becomes a shop. But I feel like he's too long here. The original model had like a stubbier face, and it's still sort of rooted in and, you know, burrowed in within itself. If you could just sort of like rein this guy in a little bit with the neck and make his limbs a little bit less lengthy, so he's not super long, like he's more stubby, I would put this up to A or S. As it is, B tier for me. But you may disagree. Last but not least, Geppetto, the Ancient Protector, Treebeard. God, that looks so much like Treebeard. You can't be biased here, though. Look, you got F, and then you got S, and then D. You guys have different opinions. That's good. Let me know what you guys think as well. Thumbs up if you still haven't done so by this point in the video. You definitely should have done. Thumbs up, subscribe, share. Twitch.tv/Witty, Patreon.com/WTiiWarcraft, and support on YouTube, of course. YouTube.com/WTiiWarcraft. D because of the face? Wow. I'm conflicted on this one because there's parts of it I like, but there's parts of it I don't like. I think I'd be quite happy to put this into somewhere between C and B, but I haven't decided where. Too much leaves. Too much noise. The original ones had a really cool look. This one's kind of got like a cool look as well, but I'm not sure I'm really sold on this whole Treebeard look for the Ancient Protector. I think I'm going C on this, but I really would understand if it just goes anywhere between B or C. I just don't even think I can definitely make my mind up on that one. But I think I'm going C. Right, okay. There we have it. This is WTiiWarcraft's Warcraft III Reforged Night Elf tier list. This is how I would have it. So at S tier, Druid of the Claw, Mountain Giant, Demon Hunter Male, Warden, and Owl Scout. A tier, Glaive Thrower, Druid of the Talon, Demon Hunter Male Metamorphosis, Treant, Avatar of Vengeance, and Ancient of Law. B tier, Huntress, Dryad, Fairy Dragon, Chimera, Keeper of the Grove, Priestess of the Moon, Ancient of War, Ancient of Wonders. C tier is Wisp, Archer, Druid of the Claw, Bear Form, Hippogriff, Rider, Demon Hunter, Female, Demon Hunter, Female Avatar, well, not Avatar form, Metamorphosis form, Spirit of Vengeance, Ancient of Wind, Ancient Protector. And D tier, Druid of the Talon, in Crow form, Hippogriff, and Tree of Life. You guys can make your own, and I would love to see sort of like just how your opinions differ. Obviously, write down in the YouTube comments if you're watching this here, and let me know how you get on. That's it. That's your lot. If you want to see more like this, I'll create another one of these, but you have to support the video and let me know that you want this. And I can do one for undead. I can do one for human, orc, for the campaign units, for each of the races, for the actual neutral creeps. But it does take quite a lot of time to create this. It took me a couple of hours whilst on stream to make this. So you got to understand it also takes time to put all those pictures together and get them like nice and clear. Link to the tier list. I don't know if that would work for you, but it will be in the video description below. If not, I'll sort out the Twitch chat afterwards. So thank you guys very much for watching. That's the Night Elf Melee gameplay units. For now, take care. All the best. WTiiWarcraft signing out. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.